Hi, Rabbi Paltiel.
Hi, brother.
Hi, brother.
Hi, David. Are you broadcasting tonight, Shlomi Yenson?
We are indeed.
Okay, I'll try to get on. Well, I'll stay here too.
He said hi, Rabbi Paltiel.
He said hi, David. He said hi, David.
Only after I said hi.
Oh.
Oh,
I don't know what to do, so sorry.
What?
I think you need a shot of wine.
You want this one?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
It sounds like the famous Akiva Marshall there.
I called you.
Yeah, well, I've been busy the last few days.
Yeah. Anybody with the middle name Wyatt Earp.
Well, we won't go into it.
What's his middle name?
Thank you. Good.
No broadcast yet.
So, can you refresh your view there?
I did.
And do you see a mosaic of different small pictures?
No, I see a black thing.
Are you on the,
I'm on the live broadcast page.
okay.
You have none? Oh, I'm curious. Is that Brazil now? What's it on?
Recording.
Is it broadcasting?
Broadcasting.
Okay. We're ready, yeah? Okay. I want to start again where we started this morning, because we didn't have a chance to get to the whole thing, and I don't think we have a clarity on what was the point. the end of the word before the last on page Dalet. Again, we are trying to identify Rotzu v'Shuv in Avodah. So the Rotzu is the Dveikus in the Oyer Eleki, which comes as a result of the Hisboinanus that we have discussed. And the Hisboinanus consists in 2 points. One is the special attention and closeness that Elokus had manifest as demonstrated to the world. And the fact that it came to the world in such a his slapshus, even though Elokus is totally above world. This is one point, and the other point is in this other point that we just now made, that Elokus is way above world, and to recognize that this which is totally remote. And when he reflects more and more in the greatness of Elokus, of the Ayin Sof, he becomes more and more affected by the phenomenon of its marvelous closeness that Elokus had shown to him and to the world. And then that ultimately leads to recognize the enormous good that was granted to him, to Israel, through Torah mitzvahs. But the Torah mitzvahs, there is Gil Elokus right here in Benafshe, in the world. In the worldly affairs, there is actually Gil Elokus. And this is what leads to the last thing I said, Nidvak Beho Elokus, and he becomes Dovak to the Elokus that has been manifest in the world. Now we'll continue further. Bezeho bechinas hashuv she'achar harotzu. This is the bechina of the shuv, this Torah mitzvahs, which is performed in the world. So this is where he comes back into worldly awareness, worldly affairs, and having the Gil Elokus right here in the world, which is called shuv. But this is a shuv that comes after the rotzu, because this shuv is in fact reflective of the rotzu. Earlier the Rebbe had pointed out that we have to understand that since the rotzu, the shuv follows the rotzu, and the rotzu follows the shuv, it must be that one leads to the other, that there is an element of rotzu in the shuv, an element of shuv in the rotzu. So how does the shuv come after the rotzu? The rotzu is when one is seeking to the closeness, the godly closeness, the closeness of godliness. Then where is this lead ultimately, this closeness? It is when it comes down in Torah mitzvahs, when it becomes part and parcel of his own mitzvahs, in his own world. And this is where the Rotzu, the Shuv, is a result of the Rotzu. The Shuv that comes after the Rotzu. Just one simple point of great significance. One becomes, and this we discussed also then, listen to it and read this. One becomes involved in Torah mitzvahs. He becomes involved in learning, and learning is with seichel, where he learns in yonim that Torah discusses as they are to be found in the world. Mitzvahs, which are all performed in Gashmius, such as eating matzah. And he's eating matzah, and he says, good matzah. Right? How is it resulting in how is it related to the Rotzu? Where is the Lakus in it? So this is the point the Rebbe is making. That when is this shuv, a shuv, that brings about that he actually, in his Torah mitzvahs, he experiences, he sees the Elokus in Torah mitzvahs. And he is Dov Behor Elokus, as we discussed at great length way back. Behor Elokus means in the Elokus of his performance. Not in the performance, but in the Elokus of it. Why would he be focused on the Elokus? He'd be focused on the Elokus because this mitzvah, the shuv, came after the Rotzu. During the Rotzu, he was totally imbued, totally involved only in the Elokus. And that became his focus. That became his experience. That became his reality. Therefore, when he comes out back in the shuv, he sees in the shuv only the Elokus that he was seeking all the time. Except now, instead of being drawn, so to speak, outside of worldliness, just to focus on the Elokus itself purely, now it is the Elokus has come down into his world. And here is where he has the real closeness, where in his world he has a new Elokus. But again, this is Hashuv she'achar Rotzu. This shuv is true only because it follows the Rotzu. Because during the period of the Rotzu, he has identified solely with the Elokus.
Just to clarify, when he says as a good matzah, in your words, it's positive here. Clearly, that. When you made this remark, when a person eats a matzah on Pesach and he says, "Oh, it's a good matzah," it's positive because it's a product of. That's what you're trying to say in your words, or you're saying it's a good thing or it's not a good thing.
It's a good thing because matzah was good, but it's not in your Elokus.
So I lost you then. I'm sorry, I lost you because.
No, I'm pointing out. He's involved in doing mitzvahs. Mitzvahs is the Gashmis, and he's experiencing the Gashmis.
Yeah.
If he's experiencing the Gashmis, so where is the Elokus?
So, right. Right. So you just explained clearly.
I'm saying, if that the Elokus is not in the Gashmi per se. The Elokus is due to the fact that it came the Shub after the Rotz. And the taste, so to speak, that is not his focus at all.
So he would not say, "Oh, it's a good matzah."
It's sort of right.
Okay, so
How does this discussion of Rotz of Ashuv, maybe I missed something, relate to what you started talking about of the two aspects that lead to Ava? The Kiruv and the Great.
Okay, so we are right here in the middle. We're going to complete it. So this is the Shuv. Everything is Ashuv Shachar Rotzu. I kind of preempted. Just wanted to have that we should have a clarity what the Rebbe is saying. What is the emphasis? The beginning is Ashuv Shachar Rotzu. What's the emphasis? Achar Rotzu. Because this type of Shuv, where he is experiencing the Elokus in Torah, that in Torah mitzvahs, that can only be if it comes after a Rotz. Lihayois, being that shebeharotzu, that in the Rotzu, hu sheroitze begil holokus. In the Rotzu, in what does the Rotzu consist? In the Rotzu, it is that he wants the Gilui Holocaust, the Dovka body, in order to be Dovuk with Holocaust. Why does he want Gilui Holocaust? Because he wants to be Dovuk to Holocaust. He doesn't want to be outside. Validei HaTorah mitzvahs. And then Alidei HaTorah mitzvahs. Nase Hagilui de Elokus. But then to Torah mitzvahs, there is the effect that there is the Gilui of Elokus. Because in Torah mitzvahs, he has the godly instruction, the godly want. This is what the Rebbe still wants. So this is the Gilui Elokus. V'nidbak alidei zeh beho Elokus. And therefore, as a result, he becomes nidbak, he becomes attached to the Elokus. Because in Torah mitzvahs there is the Gilui de Elokus. What does it mean there's the Gilui de Elokus? He was just now misboining, completely out of this world, and there was nothing interfering at all in his bonus between him and Elokus. And now to Torah mitzvahs, first now comes the Gilui de Elokus. The Gilui of Elokus, of the Elokus, that is brought in Torah mitzvahs, is not a Gilui Elokus, a seichel like a Gilui Elokus, like he says during the Hisboinus, where he's misboinen the greatness of Ein Sof and in the closeness of forth. The Gilui Elokus in Torah mitzvahs has the real meaning of the word Gilui. In the Hisbonenus, there is the recognition of the presence of Elokus. That the Elokus is mislabish in the world, and Elokus is close and so forth. Gilui is where the Elokus is participating in this world directly. It's one-on-one. You do this because that is a Ratzon Halaki.
Were you contrasting the two?
Okay. Attaching to the first step, to the Rotzo part. This is the Shu part. The Rotzo part. The Rotzo part also there is Gil Elokus. This is still going to be discussed here. I'm just trying to, maybe we should understand where the Rebbe is leading to. So the first part, Gil Elokus, he's Mizboin Elokus and he understands Elokus. But there is not Gil Elokus. There is that he recognizes that there is a presence of Elokus. But the Elokus is really remote from him. And he is seeking it. He appreciates it. And even in the fact that the Elokus was mislabish in the world and created a world with all the aspect that enable us to ultimately know and understand the Elokus. But it's still in a remote manner. What does it mean in a remote manner? It is in very general terms rather than in specifics. This is what I want. It should happen. It's a Gilui Elokus, but it's remote. This is Elokus Mitzad from the perspective of Elokus. This is what I want you to do. That's Gilui Elokus. This is where we are mamish together participating. So we'll proceed further, and then we will see with the whole point here.
Should I ask you a question on the last
Yeah.
On the last line, it says when he's talking about Ratzai, he's Liyosav Ratzai Hu Sharaitza V'Gilui HaElokus. The way that you've been explaining HaElokus is the Elokus that is in our parameters, the Elokus aspect of here. And that's real associated the way in Shu. Where here he's using the same term with the Ratzai.
Right. Because there is the Elokus, as I said, in general as well. And the fact that the Elokus was mislavish in the world. It's also Elokus.
Translate that the sentence you took from the bottom of the page.
After the Ratzai being that in the Ratzai he wants Gilui HaElokus, the Gilui of the Elokus.
They explain that the word Ho-Elokus is an emphasis. The Elokus that he has with him here in this world. But that's a Shub element. Because it's part of Torah Mitzvah, it's part of his activities. So in the Rotzo also it's called Ho-Elokus, but it's much more on a general level than in the Shu. So the real Dveikus occurs in the Shu, as we shall see. Well, let's pursue it a little bit. If we need to, we'll go back. So the episode of this. Okay, at the end of the top line of this one. The Yim Heyois. And you all that that the Ahava itself is b'bchinas dveikus, has the element of dveikus, shenid bak beho elokus, where he becomes attached to the elokus. Shaharei, and he explains how so. Shaharei says that as a result of the hisbonus, as we had discussed, and the delving deeply with his mind into the inyonim of Elokus that he is able to identify in the world, then the Oir Eliki actually comes forth and shines in his nefesh. We need to call nafshe, and his nefesh becomes attached to this Oir Eliki that shines in his nefesh. Again, we'll come back to it, but let's continue and get the whole thing. What is the question here? That in Ahava Atzma there's also Dveikus on Lakus. Why do we say that the Gilu Lakus is first and the real Dveikus is in the Shuv, not in the Rotz in the Ahava? So he explains that even though in the Ahava there is Dveikus on Lakus and there is Gilu Lakus and Amokas Adas, the Oir Eliki shines benafshe, we need bekonafshe bei, and the nefesh becomes attached to the Oir Eliki. Hine, however, hagilui bozeh, this gilui that occurs during this his boinunus, einoi gilui ho'er eliki mamhosh, is not really in fact the gilui of the Oir Eliki mamsh. What's missing? We'll see in a minute. But as we point out, Gilui means way beyond the presence. Gilui means the actual content, the actual meaning of Elokus. What it is about, not the presence. And here in the Ahava, there is not this. There is Gilui Elkus Ma'at. We need become nafshe bei. It never becomes dobek to us. But ain't a Gilui ho'er elikim mamush. And then he says in parentheses, "V'hu rag hergesh hametzias delakus." It is only the sense of the mitzias, of the presence of Elokus. Shenir gaben v'nigash benafshe. That he senses in his nefesh the presence of Elokus.
Hergesh with sister, as opposed to remember.
Is a nirge in hergesh of the mitzias Elokus, not the Oir Eliki mamash. Okay, so let's stop for a second. We spoke about it not long ago, but a little while ago. The difference between the way the Ayin is in Seichel, in Chabad, and in Chagas and in Midas. Chabad is much superior to Midas. Chabad is much superior to Midas. It's purer. As we say, Chabad is objective. He knows the truth of Elokus. Whereas Midas is more subjective. This is how he actually is imbued and affected by it. So in terms of the Madreya of Elokus and the purity of Elokus, Chabad is much superior to Midas. But in terms of how much this touches him, how much this becomes part of him, and he is actually double to them, that's Midas shaloi b'yarech to say. Then Midas, that is the real thing. When the Lakus affects his Midas, it permeates his whole being. Imagine, we can only imagine really, unless some of you have it. Imagine somebody actually having the experience of Abdul Rechel Komaycha. Komaycha Mamash. Not, without any qualifiers. Bam Rebbe, occasionally he expressed himself. Rebbe was standing over there for hours and hours and hours and giving out dollars or whatever. And so the lady said to him, Rabbi, sit down, you get so tired. She said, when you count pearls, you don't get tired. Another time the Rebbe expressed himself. He says, your child, I have millions of children. And Bam Rebbe, when everyone knows these stories when the Rebbe sent people to some really remote location and found a lost Yid. Oh, I found another Yid. This is a completely different type of experience. This is not a seichelic thing. This is reality itself. So the Hamokas Hadas gives him, and the Rebbe explains this clearly. Hergish Hametzius Elokus. In his nefesh, he senses the Metzius Elokus, the presence of Allah. What does it mean he senses the presence of Elokus? How do you sense the presence? You sense the presence in contrast to another presence, which means that you yourself are not that. You sense the presence. There's Elokus in the world, but you sense the presence of Elokus in the world. The world is not Elokus. Your world is not Elokus. But in the world there is Elokus. And he actually senses, and he senses the wonders of it, and the greatness of it, and so forth. And his nidbak to it. Nidbak means that he seeks, nidbak over there, since it's not his world, cannot be fully doubled. He seeks to be doubled. He is nidbak in an active manner. And he is dedicated to his nidbak at that stage.
You said that he can't be nidbak because what? Because it's not his world?
It's not, right. It's not him. It's not. His world. He's in the world, and in the world is Elokus, and this is what he wants. He appreciates the presence of Elokus, but this is not. This is Elokus in his world. This is not his world.
What does that mean? It's not Elokus in his world, but it's not his world?
Right, it's not the world itself.
It's not his world.
Whereas
Yes, in the person's world.
Well, yeah, what do you mean it's Elokus in his world, but it's not his world?
In the world, but through his bonus, he recognizes there is a presence of Elokus in the world. Not only is a presence, but there is a tremendous closeness that the Elokus had manifest in coming down the world, as we discussed, this a couple of weeks ago. The whole Indian that the Elokus comes be his slabshus. Remember the Moshe from the neshama in the head and all that. This is all his slabshus. This is enormous attention. But it's a wonderful thing that was shown to him, but it's not him. So therefore, when you say dobuk, what does it dveikus mean? The dveikus means that this is what he wants. He's decided to forget about everything else. This is what he's dedicated to. But it's only dedication. He doesn't really have it. Okay, so now let's continue further. Vehadveikus, and the dveikus in Ahava, Yi bivchinas rotzu adayin. The dveikus, as much as he understands the Elokus, as much as he senses the presence of Elokus, the dveikus remains in a state of rotzu. What's meant to rotzu? He is running towards it. He is still seeking it. If you have it, when you have to run to it. It's right here. The dveikus is b'bchinas rotzu adayin. It's still in an active form. She'einei b'bchinas yisyashvus etzloi. When the dveikus is not in a settled manner, but he's actually, this is where I am. I feel, I'm there. I'm there in the Elokus. He doesn't have that. It's still something that he is seeking. Velochein, now the next parenthesis. Velochein, and there, for this reason, behadveikus shebeho ahavo. In the dveikus that is present in the ahavo, einoi merave tzimoinhoi. He does not quench his thirst. His thirst for Elokus is not quenched in the dveik that's in the ahava. Ve'einoi noch v'shokit benafshe, and it doesn't rest and being pacified in his nefesh. He appreciates the greatness of Elokus, but he doesn't. But this is something which he can lose in a minute. He's not there.
How is the word pacified used here?
Shokit does not mean pacified in a sense. It's passive. He's not calm. Maybe it's a better word.
He's not satisfied. He's not satiated.
He's not satiated, and therefore he's not calm.
Yes.
And you're not Vishakit.
Is this true by all his bonus? Is that it's always something that he's it's not his yashvas? And the reason why I'm asking, we want to explain the difference between like davening Shabbos or weekday, where there's a desire. By Shabbos, it's like he's mamish right in front of the king, whereas in the palace, whereas in the weekday, it's like he's seeking to be there. So the second, by Shabbos, that sounds more like his yashvus.
His yashvus is still his yashvus of the presence of the king, but not that it permeates to his entire being. There's no gilui elokus.
Is it something that remains in Seichel, or something that remains?
Let me just. There's what's missing in our perception over here is this. To be bottled to elokus, and have Gilui Elokus as not one and the same thing. In Seichel, he can recognize.
I'm sorry, I missed what you just said. Are not what?
Are not one and the same thing.
Okay.
In Seichel, he can appreciate the presence of Elokus, appreciates the greatness of Elokus, and therefore he is completely bottled. When you say that in the Seichel, he is Dovek to Elokus, means that he is Dovek to Elokus in Seichel means that he forgets about everything else. That's the only thing I want. From people, but it's not having it. The reason they're real Gilui. So let's finish a few more lines and we'll have the whole
And Rabbi
picture.
Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
And we're saying in the Shuv, and that's the mitzvahs, there is this Gilui.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it comes after the Rotzu.
Right. Okay, let's continue over here. Let's focus in a little bit on the words he does not satiate his thirst. What thirst? The thirst comes to the surface as a result of the hisbonenus and so forth. But the thirst, that's only on how it surfaces. But what is the basis of this thirst? The basis of this thirst is his nefesh itself. Because nefesh is Elokus. Nefesh wants Elokus and can identify with Elokus only, cannot identify with the world. And here in this world, he does not have the Gilui Elokus, he does not have the sense of Elokus. His senses world. And therefore there is an internal and constant thirst for Elokus. And then when he has a moment and is able to be misboinen in godly manifestation, how godliness is manifest in the world, this would bring him closer to Elokus, and it should satiate his thirst. And to satiate his thirst, but he doesn't. We will interrupt later, but he doesn't. Why? Because there is not the Gilui Elokus mamash. He only sees the presence of Elokus. He doesn't have the Gilui Elokus mamash. Again, let me finish the whole thing, and then we'll go back, maybe give him a sholim or so forth.
Its presence, what does presence mean?
The existence. The existence and the presence of Elokus around him in the world. As we discussed in the hisbonenus, that the Elokus is mislabish in the world. That in everything in the world there is a nitzas Eloki. We'll discuss this more after we finish this the whole evening.
What's lacking? It's not satiating his thirst. It's
Gilui, not presence? Is that
Because
obvious?
it's presence and not Gilui.
Maybe that would be better. I mean, that's presence itself. Why? Maybe that's more satisfying. It's presence, not Gilui.
So I explained, the presence is sufficient to affect a beetle. That it doesn't want anything but it's not a hamshocha.
Doesn't fully go into his world.
Going back to our now classic motion of the host and the guest. Despite the fact that the main thing is the host presence, but there is a meal. What's the meal about? The meal is the actual experience of the host and together of the bridge between the host and the guest. So the guest actually experiences the presence of the host, not him.
We're finally getting to the mile of the meal.
That's right, the mile of the meal. Well, like we spoke about, the mile of midas.
So this would be like the meal missing.
But it doesn't have the real thing occurs. The real thing occurs like when you go to a chasana. You always have the moshel of chasana. You go to a simcha. You go to a simcha and alle Sachen. The real participation in the simcha is to sit down and eat a meal. What does the meal have to do with the simcha?
Yep. Here I thought that the revelation was really where he started from, in that he had a sense of the way that Elokus is this labish in the world. And we had different mashalim there, so it sounded like there he started out with some extent, some...
It's still not it's not begilit to him. So he recognizes the presence of Elokus everywhere.
That's not Gilui, that's just a starting point.
It's a gilui of the mitzias, of the presence.
Gilui of the Metzias. That's not Gilui, that's lacking.
It's lacking of the oil eleki itself. Here, oil eleki itself. And the presence of Elokus, or gilui oil eleki, it's a different thing. It's a gilui oil eleki itself. We had many mishalim. Just I want to finish this so that we can then maybe go back and renegotiate the whole thing. But when you see a living hand, see the hand is alive. That's a lakus mislabish in the hand. So the nefesh, it's a lakus. Chayas is a lakus. When you see the agility and the talent and the sensitivity, when you actually experience the sensitivity in your hand, there you experience the chayas itself. It is not merely recognizing that there is chayas in there, but you actually experience the chayas. Remember when we have this motion of the fine fabric, that there is nothing to sense there. How do you sense it? You sense the fact that you have life in your fingers.
I'm sorry, what's that illustrating?
Huh?
Wait, what is that? Which piece is that illustrating? This that you can sense
This is
the
like
self,
when you have Gilui Mamash of the Chayas.
because it's a sense that you're having a
Because you're
experience.
experiencing the Chayas itself. Gilui Oyer. And the fine and the gentleness of the Chayas. I mean, you pick up a book, you also feel Chayas. But it's not the Chayas. This is the Chayas as mislabish in the hand. This is the Chayas itself. The refinement of Chayas.
You're telling us something through this martial art. I missed it. I'm confusing with a more broader martial about shu. But this that you're telling me now about the highest in the hand and its agility, and this is to point out what in the is this pointing out what he's missing in his awareness of presence of the
Right.
Eibishter?
Mhm. Right. Not missing. That's not Ozai. Doesn't have the Gilui. What's different? He doesn't have the Gilui Oyer.
And in that marshal, what part shows he doesn't have the Gilui Oyer? In the discussion of the highest in the hand.
He does not actually experience. Okay, the highest in the hand, the highest is mislabish in the hand. Okay, so when the hand moves, what do you experience? You experience that the hand is moving, and the highest that enables the hand move. But the movement per se is not a highest experience. It's not a supreme spiritual experience. It's a physical experience. It's enabled by the Chabad that there is a chayes in it. But itself is a physical experience. But when you play an instrument, let's say very gently, or when you produce an exquisite little line on the paper, when you draw something, which is a kind of a Edelkeit itself. That's a completely different experience. Can I borrow your pen for a second? Sure. I don't know if you gentlemen have ever been experienced or exposed to this. You know, the Chinese draw holding the pencil this way. Isn't that amazing? Holding the pencil this way. Baruch, can you see it? Holding the pencil this way.
I can't see it, but I know how the Chinese hold pens.
Okay. There is the least amount of hand, of physical effect. It's not really comfortable physically. Physically, this is much more comfortable. But this is where you hardly engage the hand, and you're holding it, so to speak, entirely with the force of life that you have in your hand.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes.
So can I ask this, does this explain why, because as you're talking, I'm thinking, so you are saying that this kind of physical activity is where you experience this, not, let's say, a pitcher who pitches a perfect strike. That's not the same thing.
Right. There is much more physical involvement. It was enabled by the chayes, but it's not the feeling of the chayes itself.
So the less physicalized that it is, the more gili there is of the nefesh.
Right, Gili Oil Mamash. There are very fine words over here. Gili Oil Mamash. When you actually sense the Oil itself, rather than you recognize its effect.
How come Europe is the source of all the classical art where they hold their pen in the other way? That you would think the greatest, most sophisticated art would come from China.
But the greatest calligraphy comes from China.
Well, I don't know, I'm not going to their lines of art are exquisite. I don't think there's anything compared to that.
Their painting from the 17th century was admired by all of Europe. Rembrandt was affected by their...
I mean, under history, I'm saying, but you look at
China.
their lines, just the lines are exquisite.
Well, what? I didn't understand the point with the pen.
The point with the pen is that there is hardly an explanation how the hand holds the pen. When you have the hand is supporting the pen. There's a physical involvement. Here you're holding the pen by the sensitivity in your finger. Like we said before, the sensitivity in your finger when you sense the fine fabric that makes no effect at all.
So that's also feeling the fabric is highest.
It's like feeling it highest. I mean, you can't explain how you feel it because your finger is alive. That's why you feel it. When you hold the pencil like this, it's the finger, it's the hand that's holding the pencil, except the highest in the hand enables you to hold the hand this way. But you're holding the hand, you're holding it with your physical hand. Whereas this, it's a completely different experience. The lines that you draw this way are not at all affected by the force of your hand. Affected by the movement, nothing but the force of the hand.
Is this similar in singing?
There is similarity in singing as well. Sometimes we'll discuss more.
Shlomo Yonason, you explained something to Shlomo Yonason about the Metzias. You use the word Metzias as in the Rotsu, where he senses the presence. You'll use that term Metzias rather than in the Shuv.
Than the Gili Oyer.
In the Gili Oyer. Presence relates to this Metzias concerning the Or, and the Shuv relates to the Gili Or.
Right.
And just so I can appreciate your mashal of the pen and the Edelkeit, this...
Let me give you a more tangible mashal. Because we have discussed all kinds of different things that enable us to understand these things. God created the world. Of course, God created. Where else does the world come from? Where else does the world come from except for God have created? The world has no basis and reason of being except that God created. But you don't see God in the world, godliness in the world. You see manifestation, the raya that God created the world. Now, God created the world, and in the world He created marvelous creatures. Amongst them is the marvel of all of them is the human being. Okay. And then, and we told him a human being is able to do all kinds of different things. But then, as we discussed many times, he gave the human being a sense that doesn't exist anyplace else. That is that he has an actual ownership of a part of the world. He has a place in the world that is his. A bias, that's his place. And we discussed it many times. This ownership, and I don't mean necessarily ownership, rental. I mean, when this is his home, this is something which is true only because the world is in the God's domain. So the worldliness itself, it doesn't create this. So worldliness, one person can own a property relative to other people. It's mine and not yours. But they cannot own the property relative to the property itself, to the existence and reality of the world itself. It's God's world. How do you open home? God gave it to me. God gave me the right, the ability to own it. This is where you sense, this mama's godly reality in our midst. We're living with it. We're living with it on a daily basis. This is why we said, Odom she'ein lo bias, ein lo Odom. And if he has a bias, he becomes an Odom. It's complete. This is something which is way beyond the fact that, this is God's creative work, God's work. This is the actual godly effect, presence. Do we understand this? Do we follow this motion? This Nakuda. This is what Rebbe is explaining. In the Rotzu, in the Navo, there is also Gilui Elokus, but the only Gilui HaMitzi, Hergesh HaMitzi is the Elokus. He senses in his nefesh the Mitzi is Elokus, the dearness and the wonderful presence of Elokus, but not Gilui Oyer Elokim Mamosh. And we have to try to understand what's mean Gilui Oyer Elokim Mamosh, because in the Hisbonenus, as much as you recognize this is Elokus, for instance. Okay, but this will hear it home. When you understand that God created the world, yes, indeed, you understand that God created the world, but there is a means through which you know it, not directly. You know it by seeing the world. So you don't have the Hergesh Elokim Mamash, Gil Elokim Mamash. It is the world that you see, but that attests to the presence of Elokus. And the wonders in the world attest to the wonders of Elokus, of the presence of Elokus. But still, you don't know it directly, Gil Elokim Mamash. And Gil Elokim Mamash is actually knowing Elokus first, not to know it through the world, knowing Elokus directly. And in Al Masholim, like in the Mashal of the Chai, of the fine sensitivities, this is mamash ayin for Chayes itself. You're actually going directly to the Chayes rather than to the physical hand that contains the Chayes.
Why the connection to any fabric at all? Any material? There's some achiza to world, no?
Yes, there is some achiza to the world, but it's not through the world. On the contrary, the fabric is so fine that you don't even sense its presence. It just arouses as we explained the other day, there is a trigger. Remember a trigger of seichel? A trigger. It's not the direct thing. You have a taste, and the taste triggers a seichel. So the fabric only triggers the sensitivity of the hand. It doesn't affect it. It doesn't arouse it. Okay, it's very extremely late. I just want to finish. V'yin hadveikus who? I just want to finish this parenthesis. V'yin hadveikus, we say there is dveikus in Ahava. But we say Einam Rabbit he does not really satisfy his thirst. The nefesh is still thirsty. And I'll explain it next time about Tzimoin. So what is the dveikus if he's thirsty? How is it dovak? Dovak means connected. Hu shenim shechol elokus b'chol nafshoy. It is only in the fact that he's nimshach to elokus. He's drawn to elokus with his entire soul. Not that he is there and he experiences it. B'chol feitzum mishtoikik made by elokus, and he wants, and he's mishtoikik. He craves very much elokus. This is all he wants. This is his whole habit. That's the dveikus. The dveikus is in active pursuit. Is dveikus, but it's not an experience of having it, and experiencing it. This is what is affected by the ahava, by the hizbonis.
And the gili oyer benafshay, that is the experience.
That is the experience. We go quickly. Gili alakus, the alakus behashuv shachazeh basic atero mitzvah zeh meir gili alakus who begins zisashe benafshay. The gili halakus, the real gili halakus, it isn't the shuv that comes after.
Can we link it back to where we started today and we discussed Sunday Cholamoid on a line, on a third line from the bottom on the page Yudalet, when it says Shalideize Meir Gilui Elokus Benavshe Ve'alideize Nidbek Behoy Elokus. Is this synonymous to what we just said after parentheses?
No, this is still the ahava. There's Gilui Elokus Benavshe and Nidbek Behoy Elokus. And if you would notice, there is not a mention over here, the Meir Gili Elokus, not Gili Oyer Eliki. It is the Elokus, but not the Oyer Eliki. Elokus means the presence of Elokus.
But this is talking about Maisa Mitzvahs over there. I mean, really, the Maisa Mitzvahs, Shai Meir Gili Elokus Benafshe.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that diuk is not correct. But so what is your question?
The question is that on Sunday we discussed conclusively that that person is able to be that the minimum requirement for a person that shows, I mean, for a person to be, I guess you will help me out, but just for minimum requirement of how Elokus affects a person is when person is motivated on his daily life to take care of himself simply. Like, you know, when he feels that he is exhausted and he sleeps, and he feels that when he is hungry and he eats. So that's a minimum. We said that it's a minimum. How a person through his avoider is attached to the Eibishter.
But we just now before we explained that in Maaseh HaMitzvahs there are two parts. There's the Maaseh and there's the Elokei in it. And it has to be understood that what he's seeking is the Elokei element, not the Maaseh.
The diuk there, I think this is coming because Avram in Chol Hamoed, he wanted you to go back and explain that line. And you said you'd do it another time, but then I tried to explain it afterwards, so maybe I caused the confusion. But I thought the diuk over there was that you made the diuk in Benafshai, that he wants to, he's seeking the Gilui Elokus Benafshai. In other words, he's not seeking the Gilui Elokus in general, he's seeking Gilui Elokus in the parameters of his world,
in his world,
which is through Torah and Mitzvahs. That's how it comes.
Right.
So what we're saying now, after this parenthesis, is pretty much the conclusion of this, which is that's how the Gilui comes. It comes through Torah and Mitzvahs, in his oral Akid, in his world.
Right, but when the Rebbe distinguishes here the Gilui Metzias Holokus versus the oral Akid, Mamash. Oral Akid Mamash is a pshat that you see a Elokus directly, not even through any medium. There could be a medium, I said there could be a trigger. But what you actually see is the Gilui Elokus one. A trigger. What's a trigger? The Rebbe said, eat matzah. You mean to say I'm eating matzah? This is a Rebbe's also. This is where I am fulfilling Hashem's will. So, what do you attach to the matzah or to the Hashem's will? You attach it to the mitzvah. This is oyer leki mamash. Clearly, this is a shuv that comes after the rotz, as we discussed before.
So in your example, the mitzvah is like a trigger almost. So, like the mitzvah itself is a physical, it's a maisa, but you're relating or connecting to the elokus that's in the mitzvah.
Yeah.
And in that example over here, isn't it it says ushmartem me'od lenafshei seichem. So when person actually takes care of himself because he does it because the Eibishter wants him to be here in this world alive and healthy, and he does it because of that. Like Rambam says, that that you do it for that reason, and that's what that's what person's motivation, and then his eating and drinking is just that.
The Alter Rebbe in Tanya brings down from the Gemara that the Gemara tells us that Hillel Hazokim, the original Hillel, when he went to eat, so he said, let us go and do some favor to the poor, unfortunate goof. Okay. Anybody who feels that way,
please rise.
Has a Gilui Elokus, but you
That's great. Let's see. Try and find it. You read that over and over again, you don't know what to read. It just makes it clear.
In other words, in regular eating and drinking, you're not going to have the Gilui Elokus, whereas in mitzvahs is something.
That's all it is. That's all it is. If you look at Rebbe, the same way, once it says the kingdom, that once you go over a certain limit, you just go. If you look at Rebbe, the last years was paralyzed a good portion of his life. He was in a wheelchair. And put on feeling he needed to be helped. Put on feeling, put on the talus. So Chana, his daughter Chana ben Gurari, is to help him put on film and the talus. So one time, it was not an easy task. You can imagine he's sitting there and they're putting the film. And then he said, this is what I am. Now I'm coming to my own.
Can you say that in English?
Ados bin ich.
Ot das du?
Ados bin ich.
This is my very self.
That's right.
You can say what, he identified the body for what it was?
What?
We can say at that point he identified the group for what the group
No. He identified with the mitzvah. That's all he is. Daven. Really can have a daven for hours and you feel. It must be. Okay, so we're going to adjourn till tomorrow morning. At morning everybody needs to make a bracha, so make a bracha.
Good enough.
Now we are officially welcoming our new father,
Bashir.
Reach, Mazel Tov, Nachas.
Akin Shopesa.
Shalom,